Kristine, and I just wanted to say hi and let you guys know that this is going to be a trigger warning. While Carissa and I were recording, we briefly talked about the topics of drug usage and suicide. So if those are topics that you are sensitive about, please go ahead and skip this episode, or you may fast forward just a few minutes once we get there. It's towards the later end of the episode. So go ahead and do that. And we do just want to let our listeners know that we do support them. And I will be listing some resources that you can visit regarding these topics. I really hope that they help. And thank you very much for listening to us. We really appreciate it. And we'll be moving on with our episode. Thank you.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our show. I'm Kristine.
I'm Carissa.
And we are the Vale Tudo Mamas. So, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. How was your weekend? Or since actually the last time we talked?
Good. Busy.
Yeah,
I feel like
busy.
it's all just like a blur. But more exciting, how was the super fight?
Ooh, it was fun. Dolly had a super fight this weekend in Myrtle Beach. And we had really intended on her fighting like a girl, same rank, who actually only trains no gi. And then last minute, they were kind of like, oh, well, she's not going to be coming. So we're going to try and find somebody for her to fight. Literally the day of, they were like, well, we don't really have anyone. So Chino, our coach, was like, well, have her fight Diego, just for some cage experience and stuff like that. And Diego was like, I'll do it. Yeah, that'll be fun. And Diego and Dahlia have been training partners for 2 years. So, I mean, they kind of can counter each other's offensive attacks, I guess. And they both have the same coach. So I don't know if they were unsure of who Coach Chino was yelling at, like instructing, So that was kind of funny too. But they did really good. And, everybody, obviously, the crowd was really happy. There was a girl going against a boy. But I do think Diego is amazing. He's such a good little, grappler. And, but every time Dolly would, throw up an armbar or something, they'd be like, woo!
She's like
Yeah.
her own little cheering squad.
Yeah. So that was kind of cute. And then, so what I thought happened, they did tie, and then they did overtime, and the first point wins. They said Diego won. So Diego got the little medal put on him, and then he didn't want it. Nope, Dahlia's the winner, and he took the medal off and put it on Dahlia. So I thought it was the cutest thing. Everybody was like, oh my God. And they're literally the cutest in the cage, them two together. We watched the video and we talked to the referee, and he was like, oh my gosh, she actually won in OT. Diego did a takedown, but he didn't have control. And then she landed on top and then got a guard pass or something. So she actually won. And I was like, oh, cool. So she won her fight. So that was kind of cute. That was good to know because the rest of the fights didn't go too well. I don't have a professional opinion about things. I'm just a spectator. So the rest of our team, they didn't do as well this time around. And so I think that really, really put a damper in the mood of it all. But when you don't do well, it's kind of motivation to do better. It is a bummer when your teammates don't win.
But you can't win them all either.
You can't. You really can't. And sometimes some people are just gonna, out jiujitsu and it's really unfortunate because you know how hard your teammates work too. So you're like, this sucks.
But I almost feel like in order to be the best champion version, you have to have experienced those losses.
You have to. There is no fire under your butt if you're winning all the time.
Yeah.
And where does your motivation lie? And I think sometimes, yes, your motivation can be in your competition. Like, I want to be better than this person, or I want to be like but it's more like a friendly situation. But like, your real competition should be within yourself. Like, I want to be better by like May next year. I want to be better than I am today, So that was the super fight. So what are your kids up to? What's Layla up to? How's cheer season coming along?
So it's going well. She is becoming more consistent in her double back handspring passes.
Ooh, cool.
And her coaches said that as soon as she gets it, like, just to the point of absolute consistency where she could just throw it, they're gonna move her up to level 3 tumbling
Ooh.
and start working on like tucks and aerials.
Oh, those are fun.
Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, so it's a little crazy because let's see, by June of last year, she wasn't even level 1. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't even fully level 1 yet. So for her to be pretty much finishing up level 2 already and them
Mm-hmm.
talking about level 3, I'm just kind of like, slow
That's
down a little bit.
awesome.
Like, just slow down a little bit. But yeah. So she still trains 7 days a week.
Yes. Wow.
The only
He's hardcore.
difference the only difference now compared to summer is that over the summer it was pretty much all jujitsu, with maybe 1 day of cheer. And
Okay.
now it's kind of shifted to where it's 3 to 4 days of cheer and then 3 to 4 days of jujitsu.
Oh, okay.
Depending on like the weeks or if they have like extra camps
Right,
or
right,
if
right,
there's
right.
like a comp or something.
And
So
cheerleading has definitely changed a lot, like evolved a lot, just like jujitsu and grappling has. I did cheerleading 20 years ago. Like, it was a long time ago. And it took me a full year to get like a back handspring. Like, it was not, and I still to this day I cannot do it. Like,
I
it's
never tried. I think when I was younger I did like cartwheels and roundoffs and that was pretty much it.
yeah. Well, those are fun too. If I tried it now, I'd probably break my wrists. Uh, like, I'm hitting my later 30s. I need to start taking a calcium supplement. No.
Yeah. So just busy with that. How about the kids? They're still doing the wrestling camps,
They are
right?
doing wrestling until the end of October, I think. So they're still doing wrestling. Um, they just actually went last night. And I think they've really improved on their like takedowns and trying to stay off their back. I say trying. I think it's been beneficial. Actually, one of our old teammates, he lives in South Carolina now, and he had said something like, "Are they doing wrestling?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, they've been doing wrestling twice a week for the past 3 weeks." And he's like, "Oh, you can tell because he hasn't been around since May, and it's September now, so a couple months, like 4 months." And he was impressed. He was like, they look good out there, and I'm like, well, yeah, like they're good,
That's awesome though.
He's like, yeah, their wrestling's getting good, and I'm like, thanks. So shout out to Carolina Elite Wrestling Club. So another big thing this weekend that happened was the ADCC championship in Vegas.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big
I wish
thing.
we went. Like, it was
I
like
wish we went.
for social media,
I wish we went because it looked awesome. And I was thinking, and I've actually never been to like any IBJJF competitions. And I know
Really?
really, yeah. I've never so my kids, I just like did their application so that they can do like pans and like all the opens next year. But I've never been to one. And I saw recently in that like Facebook group that someone was comparing ADCC to um like IBJJF, and I'm thinking like there's really no comparison there, because I think ADCC just looked really spectacular as somebody in the stands. I don't know about competing in it. And whereas like IBJJF has been around for so long, they're going to be more organized, professional, etc.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So
I saw actually a post by, I guess, one of like the organizers about it because of all of like, I think the negative complaints and feedback and stuff. And he was just kind of saying how like he worked so hard to put this together, but it is their first year. And,
yeah,
you know,
I thought it was
it
fun,
was
like
like,
looking. I
yeah.
mean,
And
I
he was
wasn't
like,
there. It looked
I
cool.
don't get paid for this or anything like that. And he was just like, this is the
Aww.
first and last time that I'm gonna like address it.
Yeah,
So just a reminder, like be kind, you
be
know?
kind.
And that's I think a great point. Like just stay in line.
Stay in
Like
line. Yeah. If
there's
something is really, really wrong, like there was a viral post about pans where the little girl, she they she was in the bullpen, but then they didn't have her go in like 30 minutes later, like they had already moved on even though she was checked in and everything. Did you see that?
I didn't.
Okay, I have to go back and send it to you, but at Pans, I think the girl was maybe 12 or like teenager. So she's old enough too that like she knew her name and everything. And something along the lines of she was in the bullpen and she was like, yeah, I know they do like certain checkpoints to, right? Like, who are you? Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
have your little card or
Like at the
whatever?
weigh-ins. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like getting ready to go. And then like 30 minutes later, her dad was like, why is she still not on the mat? And then went to go find out what was happening. They had already moved on because they said that she didn't check in. So like the dad was PO'd. Like he was so upset, and
Yeah.
which is understandable. That's why he made that long rant. And I totally agree with him. Like if it was something
I
that,
think I actually did see that
yeah,
now
that
that
could have
you
been easily
mention.
prevented, something like that,
Yeah.
then, and it costed you like money, time, training, and now your kid's spirit is crushed because they don't get to compete because they moved on. Like that's so unfortunate, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I would definitely have written like a Karen email at that, but
Or
all the
even
little
like
details.
sometimes, right? Like a ref may not see a move.
Right.
Right? Like that happens quite a bit.
Oh,
Like
that does.
competitions and everything, you
Yeah.
know, like they may be on the left side instead of the right or something like that. Like I want to say that even actually happened to Layla during Pans this last year.
Mm-hmm.
But one, like that's why you keep those videos too, right? It's like
Right.
because then you have proof.
Right.
But at the same time, like as much as it may suck or be unfortunate, like if they decide not to overturn it, even with, you know, the proof, like
Visual evidence.
they
Yes.
may have a reason,
Right.
you know, like, again, easier said than done, especially when we're in the moment, but, you know, like it does happen.
It
Like
does
they're
happen,
still
and people are
human. Like,
human. Exactly. People are human, of course.
yes.
Like they're all human. So have that, decency, consideration for that too. Yes, professional, they are professionals, but also like it was ADCC's first time and I thought they did a great time. Like it was spectacular from what I saw, but I also didn't compete and I didn't have my kids compete,
Yeah.
which we definitely should go next year because Mike was like, we gotta go. It was
I
so
was
cool.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's
Vegas.
in Vegas.
Yeah, and the fights were amazing. Like like the male and female. We were watching it all day on Sunday. Um, all night too. I was waiting till like 12:30. I'm like lucid dreaming because I'm half asleep, trying to
Oh my
stay up
gosh.
watching Gordon Ryan and Andre Galvao. And I don't really like Gordon Ryan just as a person. He's a good athlete, but he's just says really gross things where I'm like, ew, you don't joke about that. But I do think the other guy was really cute. And that's how I base my opinions. But no, he's been a black belt for years. So Andre Galvao. So I saw him on actually one of my friends, she sent me like the website for War Tribe and I was like, oh my God, who's that model? I didn't realize he wasn't a model. He was like a athlete.
Yeah, that's
Like
funny.
he's cute. So that's how I pick my favorite athletes. What about you? No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
actually
basically
probably do the same. Like, I mean, aside from my own kid, right?
right,
I'm
right,
just
right.
like, oh,
Well,
she's cute.
yeah.
Because I mean, records and everything. I'm sure that all like
I'm at that
holds
level, you
value,
have
but
to already be super good. So
yeah,
I'm not gonna sit there and be like, ew, they suck and pick apart when I have no idea what it takes to,
yes,
get to that.
yes,
But
agree.
I'm starting to see what it takes though. Like my kids, I'm not gonna say my kids are awesome, like really, really, really good. I do think they're good.
They are
I think they are have
hands down.
grown so much since they're, from their previous place. Um, but they're the sport's evolving and there's people like really, really good where I'm thinking like, dang, those kids, like you guys are under 10 years old. How do you train so much? How do you get to that caliber at such a young
Yes.
age? And you're just kids.
Honestly, though, like I I fight myself with this all the
Hmm.
time. I fought myself with it through summer and even now, and I have conversations with Layla about it all the time because
Hmm.
she is at the gym 7 days a week,
Yes.
and I'm just like, at what point am I allowing you to be a kid?
Right.
But for her, she's like, no, I need to go. I want to go.
And that I like the hustle mentality because you want your kids to know. I just talked about this with the wrestling coach. You want your kids to know what the value of hard work is. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You definitely want your kids to understand their not like push past their limits too much, but like know their limit. You want your kids to do hard work. Like nothing comes easy at all. We're adults. We know
Yes.
this, like we want our kids to know this too. It's going to take some studying. It's going to take some sacrifices. So, how do you deal with that in your house?
I think of the conversations that we've
Mhm.
had to have, and it's one of those things where I will talk to her about it multiple times to
Mhm.
where she gets angry with me, and then I will actually have Mark talk to her about it
Yeah.
just so that she hears it from different points of
Sources.
view.
Mhm.
And then if I really need help, I will actually call her godmother and be like, "Hey,
Oh.
I need you to like FaceTime her one of these days when I'm not
Mhm.
around." I'm like, I'll give you the times. And I
Yeah.
need you to like talk to her and really just kind of get in her mind and like see how she's truly feeling. Because,
Right.
I'm still mom. So
Right.
sometimes she may not be completely 100% honest with me.
Right. Do you think it's because she doesn't want to disappoint you because she thinks you want it for her?
So
Is that?
before
Mhm.
that was a thing with jujitsu. And I was like, if you want to quit, we can quit. And then she started winning and learning all these like new moves, and she was
Mhm.
like, "No, I'm not quitting." And I was like, "Okay, like you don't have to compete.
Right.
Like you don't have to compete this one if you don't want to. You don't." And that type of a thing. I also feel like again, it's that taking a break that I really have to explain to her. I have to explain to her that like she's gonna need to choose because before when she was younger, she wasn't training as much. She wasn't
Right.
training as hard. She did cheer at a prep level.
Right.
She did Girl Scouts, and then she did jujitsu. But back then, she did cheer 1 time a week. She did Girl Scouts 1 time a week. She did jujitsu 2 to 3 times a week. That's
Mhm.
still less than 7 days a week.
Right. And
And
yeah, and that's 3 activities, right.
but she was like fighting me about it when we first got here, and she started leveling up to like elite all-star cheerleading,
Mhm.
and she went to the big kids like and to a really competitive gym and everything for jujitsu, and it's like she was mad at me because she thought like I just was taking Girl Scouts away from her. I was like
Oh,
doing this, and I was like, no, like, but at what point, like at what day of the week do you want to go to that, like,
Mm-hmm.
because you're already doing something every single day of the week.
Right.
And so I think that like break piece, and even just like jujitsu, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, she trained so hard for pans, and I
Right.
told her even before like her intense training started, and it was after they went to nationals for cheer, I said, hey, listen, like, after we go to Pan Am's, we're gonna take a little bit of a break
Mm-hmm.
from competing jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
And it was almost like I had to just force that as a rule. Like,
Yeah.
you need to take a break.
Well, and that's actually really good because like parents have to make that call sometimes, and sometimes I think they get lost, in that whirlwind, tornado, chaotic mess that we're all creating for ourselves.
Yeah.
That we forget, like, we can rest. Like, there's not, no one is telling us we have to do all of these things. You know what I mean?
And it's been so nice, like,
Yeah,
to
for
not have a
sure.
competition every week,
For sure.
because last season, at the beginning of the year, between right after Christmas
Mm-hmm.
until the end of April,
Mm-hmm.
between her cheer competitions and jujitsu competitions, in that like 5 month time frame, I only had 3 weekends that we didn't have a competition. Every other week we were at a competition somewhere.
Yikes.
And yeah, so I was like, we're gonna take a break. And I
Good
remember her
call,
asking me,
Mom.
she's like, but what about if my team goes to a competition and I'm not there? And I was like, it's okay. Like, there's
Yeah.
gonna be more competitions and it's gonna suck, but like, we both need the break, you know?
Yeah. I think sometimes you don't even realize you need a break until you have the
Yeah,
break and you're like, okay.
I needed this.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yes.
a good call because it's getting crazy. Just
What
my
about you guys?
observation. What's my, well, so unfortunately, this is, I think, my point of view of why I think we go so much. I think we have a lot to catch up on. And I think that's why I push my kids a little bit harder than they necessarily have to be pushed, only because we're playing catch up.
That makes sense.
And I say that because I think I'm not saying that they promoted my kids early to gray belt, but I am thinking that maybe compared to other schools, they might have been prematurely promoted and they were beating all the like white belts. And then they hit gray belt and they were hitting like a wall. They were just like, how do I win against these people? And that kind of got really kind of sad for my kids. I didn't like one, you don't want to watch your kids lose, but at the same time you just it does something to their spirit and it makes
Yeah.
or breaks them, but it was breaking them because it was happening a lot. I will say that I feel like now my kids are among their peers at, different schools. I do think they're probably at the level they should be,
That's
with
awesome.
considering how much they compete. But for a while, it was every single day. Like, whoa. And we're still there a lot. We barely miss a class, but it's more so because I know they need consistency in their days. This summer, we were there every single day, almost six times a week. And my opinion was that I wanted them to catch up. They were like I said, now I think they're where they should be. Now I think they're good gray belt level. They can compete. They can win some against some gray belts. They will lose some against some other gray belts. It's fine. That's where they should be. But it it's tough to realize and have that, kind of reflection like, oh, maybe I'm working them too hard because I think about how I was when I was 6, 7, 9 years old. And I'm like, I don't think I liked anything as much as my kids like this. Sometimes it might be more of a social thing for them too. So, do they want to see their friends? Um, are they just going so they can talk to their friends? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and I have to remember they're still kids, so I think I have to factor that into, like, maybe they do just wanna play when they go to class, and get some energy out and talk to their friends, which, yeah, they shouldn't be doing that at class, but they do get to see them, they
But
do get
they're
to talk to their
kids.
kids.
Let
They're
them be
not
kids.
yeah, they're not professional sponsored athletes yet, you know? I
Well,
mean,
and on that note too, though,
maybe they'll
like,
get there, but yeah.
so Layla went through a patch. She went almost, let's see, August to February, so
Mhm.
almost like 6 months, where we were like competing a lot, and it was right after COVID, and they just started like opening up all
Oh,
the
okay.
competitions. So
Mhm.
she was still like pretty new to it. I want to say she was like still a white belt when she started competing. And she got to the point where I would just ask her, because for us, it's her decision if she
Yeah, for
wants to
sure.
compete, you know? And I asked her, I remember, I said, hey, do you want to go to this competition? It's in South Carolina, we can drive there, like all this type of thing.
Mhm.
And I remember her telling me, she was like, I don't know if I want to go. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And she was like, and I was like, can you tell me more? And she said, I don't know if I want to go because all that's going to happen is me win silver because that's what always happens. And it
Oh,
was before she like ever won a gold medal, like, she was just like, I don't know. And she changed her mind because our old gym decided that they were going to make the drive up to South Carolina as well. And it was right after we had our military move.
oh, okay.
Um, so she decided to go and she went and she won her first gold medal at that
Aw,
competition.
that's
So it
awesome.
was like just crazy. But then when she did win, it meant so much more to her.
That's good.
Like she's like, I worked hard for this. Like, and it was my time type of a thing. So
Awesome. That's actually a really, really cute story. And how old was she when she won,
she
in that?
was she was 6.
6. Oh,
So it was just very like, she's like, I don't know, she's like, I'm just gonna lose. I'm just gonna get silver. And I was like,
right.
okay, like, let's talk about that. Like,
Yeah.
you can't win them all. But I think because of that, it was like all of the wins afterwards. And
I think
even
it was
after
like the
all of the
catalyst.
losses,
Mm.
yeah, afterwards, she was like, if I do this, then, this would happen. Like if I worked harder, if you know, I think it's that like lesson that just kind of taught her, what you were kind of saying earlier, like that value of hard work and the process and everything.
There must be like a fine balance that I haven't found yet.
You and me both.
Right? Because I want them to do good. I want them to know the value of hard work, but I don't want them to forget that they're kids and they can have fun and do fun things that doesn't require, you know, beating another kid in jujitsu.
Well, so just even that, like, because our kids are competitors, I remember I was driving one day and I told her, I said, Layla, winning isn't everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to win every time. And she straight up just laughed at me. Like
Yeah.
she was cracking up and I was like, "What is so funny?" And she was like, "No, like I need to win. I
Yeah.
want to win." And
It's
I'm
an
just
ego
like,
thing, and you don't realize how
"Okay,
little
but
they are. You're like, why do you have such an ego? Because Kenny's the same way.
she's like, "I need to win." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "I know
I
you
wonder
want
if
to."
you get like that when you get older, because Dahlia's still like, meh, like win or lose, you know? So, I wonder if like 8 years old is the mark.
That actually makes a lot of sense because when she was younger, when she
Yeah.
was like 6, 7,
Yeah.
win or lose, she didn't really care. Maybe it is. Well, you'll have to keep us updated
Yeah.
if when she
With
turns
Dahlia
8.
turns 8 and then she's like, I gotta win.
Yeah.
I don't know. But like I said, the sport is evolving. There's these super young kids like winning at ADCC, the twins, the Ruo Tolo brothers. They impressed me so much this weekend. I was trying to show Kenny and he was like, cool. And I'm like, they're literally like 10 years older. That's
Cool.
not that much of a difference. And they're only like 77 kilos. So that's like under like 169. I had to do the math. So Ty, he won third place, like bronze in absolute, and he's killing it, and his brother won gold, his twin brother, and they're badasses. Like I was like, wow,
Yeah.
wow. And then just recently there is a kid who's only 17 years old who got signed by the UFC. Like he won, I think, the Contender Series.
Oh my gosh.
17. Like I have a kid older than him.
17.
17, and he is in the UFC now, like officially signed his contract. Raul Rosas Jr. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
Like when do you start? Are they starting at like our kids' age? Like when do they pick up a pair of gloves and start punching and like end up being professionals?
Crazy.
Right? Carissa put up a really nice list of the youngest female black belt in the US, Grace Gundrum, and she got her black belt 2 months after turning 18.
Yes, and I want to say typically they don't give you your black belt until you're at least 19. So I thought that was a little crazy.
Wow.
So Miko Galvo, I might be saying that wrong.
Oh, yeah, Mika Galvo. Okay.
Also Mika Galvo.
Mika Galvo.
I might be saying that wrong.
Yeah, he was at ADCC this weekend also.
But he started at the age of 4. He got his black belt at 17, and he actually beat the late Leandro Low at BJJ Stars.
Wow.
Like, actually, I think earlier this year.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy because it's like, for him, he started at the age of 4. When did your kids
start? But he's Brazilian, right? Mika.
Yeah.
Do they like start doing that when they're like walking age?
I mean,
probably.
Possibly.
I mean, your professor's baby. She's so cute.
She's 2.
She's so cute. And
I see her
around.
like joining
in
actually
the little
some of the tiny classes already. So I mean that makes sense.
Dolly started when she was 5.
Okay.
Kenny started with like any martial art, I think when he was 6. So yeah. Okay. Seems about right.
Yeah.
So I feel like we are late in the game,
But see, that's another thing because so I also put a note here. It's like the average child in nowadays spends less than 3 years playing a sport and quits by the age of 11. So you got to kind of wonder, right? It's like, well, what sets all of these like champions apart, or how do they keep going, and like their motivation and like that type of a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Because like, what makes them not a statistic, basically?
I don't want to be the parent, the obnoxious parent who is pushing, almost to the point where you think, like, dang, dude, like a chill pill. Like,
yeah.
Like, there's no, like, Dana White is not scouting here, like, you know what I mean? I know that it could be, like, pave the way for that, I think sometimes parents can take it too far for their kids, and I think that might be so we had play an integral role in our kids obviously in our kids development in life, but like also in their hobbies, and if they just want to do it as a hobby, respect that and let them do it as a hobby. It's okay to be like good, it's okay to be mediocre at your sport too. Just if they're learning those skills that they need, like hard work, balancing, time management, because they also need to balance schoolwork and stuff like that. That's okay. Like, why would you want to life is hard enough for a kid. Like, why do you want to add more pressure by being like, oh, you got to be a competitive athlete? I think you definitely have to have that self-awareness.
Definitely.
Like sometimes I think about how some parents do stuff, or not I don't want to say exploit because that sounds almost really harsh, but they use their kid for notoriety or clout because maybe they're
Projecting.
their, old dreams and goals or
Personal
whatever,
like goals and intentions and yeah.
Exactly. Like what they wanted for themselves, they're kind of pushing it on their kid. Really talk to them and do they want to be doing this? Some of these kids look super unhappy up there. Maybe they might be super good at jujitsu or MMA or wrestling or cheerleading, whatever the sport is, soccer.
Yeah.
But do they want to be doing that? Would they rather be at home drawing? Because that's a good hobby, Um, we
Yeah.
may not think it, but gaming is starting to be a lucrative hobby too. People are streaming on Twitch
Oh
and
my
getting paid,
gosh.
So
I can't believe you just said that.
okay,
Mark just got paid out. I saw the money on the bank account that like this morning for that.
that's so cool.
So yeah, it's just extra income. But I
Yeah,
mean,
do
granted, he
it.
does everything else. And he always tells me, he's like, well, it kind of like helps pay for how much I spent to build like my $3,000 PC. Like,
Yeah.
sure, man. Like,
Yeah, whatever
I
it
know.
I'm not mad
And
about
of
it.
course, he's also bringing home real money with his
Right.
actual job. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
kind of nice
Yeah, I know, right?
to get him on his level. But
Yeah, I know. I need to get on that level. Um, okay, so I did talk a lot about like cons about
anyways, completely off track.
No, that's okay. That's what the show is for. What's a pro about having your kid being a badass athlete, Like,
I think a lot of it is also just like the benefits for their self-confidence and
yeah.
like their character, right? Because, we saw so many of our friends or just people that we knew in like middle school and high school, like fall into drugs or fall into
Mm,
like all these other things. Or I don't know if this was a thing in your kind of neighborhood, but
okay.
we knew like so many people who were like attempting suicide when
Oh,
we were younger and like, arms and like, it was almost like a girl that we knew was like suicidal or had attempted to like take her life and they didn't really have an outlet like a sport hobby or anything um that would also provide them a community. So I think
right.
that's a huge thing with
It's a big
not just
community
judo
too,
and
so
MMA,
yeah.
but like just in any sport.
Right.
It's like they meet friends,
Mhm,
they get to connect with people, not just like people their age, but also like they see role models
mhm,
and see like coaches that they can
mhm,
look up to and like all of those type of things. I think that's a huge pro. Like
for sure.
that you can't really buy that. You can't buy that
You
experience for them.
No,
Like
that's something they will
granted, you
learn.
spend
Yep.
a lot of money for it, but
Yeah.
like you can't get that anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good pro.
Exactly.
Good job. Very good job.
So what do you think is another
Um, okay,
pro?
so if you're going to I don't want to say push, but if you are going to push this type of um hobby turned professional career on this kid, that's what it's going to turn out to be. You have that cute teenager. I think she's maybe 16 now, the Helena Jiu-Jitsu girl.
Oh yes, yes.
She's what, 15, 16? And she's
Yes.
already teaching seminars, like
That's
like
it's crazy.
that's a cool way to make money as a 16-year-old. I was working at the finish line and at the mall, like when I was that age. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is good if you want to take it to that level, because I don't think you're going to do it on your own as a kid, you know? Like, you're going to
Yeah.
need your parents' support. You're going to need financial support from maybe like companies to sponsor you. And that's another thing. That's kind of cool. You get free gear, or not free, but like people will sponsor you if you're that elite, So
Yeah.
I think those are probably good pros for your future. Pros. Let's focus on the pros. It's gonna build your future.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And you're all like by the time you're a legal adult, you're gonna have a name already established, your brand established, you're possibly like the business side of things, not just, yourself and your skill, but like you might have a shop and e-commerce.
Yeah.
I mean, like this girl, she's teaching seminars, like she's doing something. I don't know how much it is to go to those seminars, but I mean, it's pretty. I think that's pretty cool. So
I think so.
yeah,
I think also just like the life skills, right? Of like time management and
yes,
eating healthy
eating
and like,
healthy.
like
Yes,
just little things that like, yes, I'm sure they could probably learn that elsewhere, but it almost becomes second nature for them because they are starting it at such a young age where it's
right,
like, us trying to learn it at like 15 or 16 that just drinking soda all day every day is
right.
probably not like the
It's
best thing, or
mm,
just like little things like that.
one thing I did want to touch on, is that you know how I said you see some really like upset, not upset, but they don't look like they're happy and some,
Happy.
yeah. So just recently, and I was like, my kid wanted to do this TikTok transition video. He was like, "These look cool. Can we do this?" I was like, "Yeah, can we make it jujitsu related, where you like you do this and then you're in your gi?" And he
Yeah.
was like, "Sure." And it took us a good like 30 minutes just to film like 30 seconds, and not even, it's probably like 15 seconds because we had to keep redoing it because it didn't look right the first like 12 times. So, and I felt bad because at like that 13th time, he was like, okay, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this isn't
Oh.
fun anymore. Like, I wanted to just, I was like, oh, I don't want to be like that type of mom. Like, but I still, used what I had. So it's not like perfect. But, I thought it was cute and it was fun. It was something that we could do like together. Um, and but he was so over it. And I wonder how many kids go through that with their parents. And this is not to bash parents at all, but this is just like more awareness. Like,
Mhm.
are you like, it's good to push your kid a little bit, but are you pushing them to the point where they aren't liking it anymore? Like, that's something we
Yeah.
need to be aware of and
Yes.
and accept it when your kid is like,
I'm done.
yeah,
Or
unhappy. I'm saying like be aware of when like it's too much. And so, like, Kenny was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I
yes.
was like, okay. Like, even at the super fights this weekend, he had the opportunity to go against another kid. And he was like, no, I'm not going against him. I'm not ready. And Kenny's always ready. But he was like, I just don't want to. And he was like very firm in his boundaries. And I was like, I did catch myself pushing him a little bit. I was like, and even Mike was like, he said he doesn't want to. It's okay. He's going to be back in 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, you're right. You're right. Like, I need to be aware. And that's when I caught myself and I felt bad. I was like, okay. And then he ended up like falling asleep because it was a long day and he got a little sick. And he was like falling
No.
asleep before the end of the fight. So I was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't make him fight. And I'm glad he didn't because he would have been like, he probably would have like not done well also. And he wasn't ready mentally. So, he's a very mental fighter. He needs to be in the right headspace.
I think they all are kind of like that though.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I will say most of them are. Dahlia can get too much in her head, so I try not to put too much focus on that. I'll just be like, just have fun, like have a good time, so that she's not.
oh, is she an overanalyzer
No, she's actually not. It's Kenny.
fighter?
Yeah, it's Kenny that'll be the over analyzer. So Kenny will be like, what does the other kid look like? What, like how tall is he? Like at Naga, I didn't tell him that one that we were at in Virginia Beach with y'all, when he kind of cried because he found out the kid was a yellow belt. And that's when I was like, oh, maybe I should give him details beforehand next time. Because he was so upset. He didn't do well in his game. He was like, armbar 1 minute, go ahead, armbar me. I am not. There are pictures where he is like, I hate this. The other kid is giving him a hug, like trying to like be well, and they also did move him up, I think, to
Yeah.
what is it, expert or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he's just intermediate. Like he's a baby gray belt. So yeah, so I don't want to be that. Anyways, so how do we counter this as parents whose children? How would you counter it? Listen to them. I mean, we talked about it throughout this, but
Yeah, I think it's hard though because we have to realize that like part of it is on us, right? It's like how we respond to them when they do try to tell us that they're either having a hard time or they don't want to do it or they're feeling anxious or nervous or
mm-hmm,
whatever the case may be. And I think that's just with parenting in general.
mm-hmm,
It's like if you're always going to get mad at them because they're telling you this, eventually they're just not going to tell you.
right,
Or
right,
they're just going to lie to you about it.
right.
And it's like,
Well, I don't want to either. Yeah.
yeah, it's like instead of that, it's just I try to talk to Layla about like, hey, I'm really angry, but this is why I'm angry.
Right.
It's like because you're not considering your friend's feelings or because you're not considering my feelings or, in like certain situations or
Right.
like you are putting yourself in a dangerous situation where you can get hurt or that other person can get hurt. But and then I always kind of like put a positive spin to it of like, but I appreciate you telling me.
Yes.
Like I think that's what I always try to end with is like no matter what it is, it's like, or I'm sad because you hurt my feelings, but I appreciate you telling me.
That's
And
really sweet.
those little nuggets I think have a longer effect because when she was younger, she was like 3. I swear she would lie to me. She would lie to me about the smallest things, like how many strawberries did you eat? 2. How many strawberries did you really eat?
And there's like 10 missing.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I had to start at that age
Okay.
to be like, thank you for telling me the truth, but and then we'll kind of go into that. And so I try to adapt that, especially in the sports,
Okay.
because, lying about strawberries isn't a big deal. But if you're lying to me about, whether or not you actually want to train or anything like that, like that's going to push them and to the point of unhealthiness. And that's what I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? How else can we counter this?
Well, I think this is important, mostly in jiu-jitsu. Oh, observe. Like, sit back and observe. Take a seat. Take
Sir,
a
please
seat.
sit down.
Please, sir, please sit down. Please take several seats. No, there's benches here for a reason. Trust your kid that they know themselves. They know their coach. Trust your coach that they can see where they're, because they've been doing this longer than you have. Where they're, like trust them that they know where the kid's breaking point is. It's their job to build them in jujitsu. It's our job to build them in life. So
I love that.
Thanks. I just made that up. I'm so good. But trust them, and observe. Take your seat. Like stay in your lane, whatever you need to do, because this is their life. Like I don't want to put that on my kid, like, my successes or failures or whatever. Like this is their life to build. So I'm just gonna, put my seatbelt on
Yeah.
and watch them, and drive them to the places because that's what I feel like sometimes. Like
Yeah,
the
we're
Uber.
just our personal Ubers.
Yeah, just the Uber. Oh, and then I do think also don't sign them up for every competition. You've touched on it, like take a break. And then you had something really good about the financial pressures of jujitsu because it's not
Yeah,
cheap.
I mean, it isn't. And especially like when they're doing multiple things or they're
Yep.
doing it at that level, and
Yeah.
then you start to think like, okay, instead of driving 2 hours in the morning, they'll be more well rested. So then, okay, maybe that's a hotel room for a night
Right.
or two.
Right.
And then on top of gas, and then if you have dogs like we do,
Right.
it's like,
Same.
okay, boarding the dogs.
Yep.
Like also like parents like take care of yourself. Like,
Yes.
and be realistic with those finances and with like all of these things because yes, we want to be supportive and yes, we want to try to do everything that we can, but we also have all of our limits.
Yes.
And if
We
we're
have
pushing
other
ourselves too
obligations
hard,
too. Yeah.
then what does that mean? Yeah,
And
what
what are
does
you
that mean
showing your
for
kid?
what we're
Yeah.
pushing our kids?
Yeah. What are you showing your
Like
kid?
priorities.
Because I don't want my kids to think that money grows on trees around here because they don't.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. Somebody told me though, money doesn't grow on trees, but paper comes from trees, and money is made of paper. Just like, okay, never
kind
mind.
of. That's a really long stretch, and I get it, but kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just wrap it up then. I don't want to go too hard into like mean ass parents. No, I'm just kidding. um, but last thing before we end our show, we wanted to do a fun little game. If you've listened this long, we're gonna do two truths and a lie, and you guys get to learn about us. So,
Okay, you go first.
oh,
I'm
you want me to go
excited.
first? Okay. All right. I failed my driving test the first time around. I can't whistle, and I'm allergic to watermelon.
You're allergic to watermelon is a lie.
How'd you know?
Because who's allergic to watermelon?
I don't know. Watermelon is so good.
It is so good. I don't know. That's just like a very interesting like allergy. Like I don't think I've ever heard anybody.
I mean, you could be allergic to anything.
That's true, but watermelon is like 99%
It would be so unfortunate,
water.
right? And it would be, oh yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that one. It's so unfortunate though, if you were. Watermelon's so good. Yep, I failed my driving test my first time around. The lady had to actually put her arm out and be like, "Stop! What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh
What
shit."
did you do?
I just went when I wasn't supposed to, like at a four-way.
Oh. Oh, wait. And what was your other one? You can't
I
whistle.
can't whistle. I cannot. I'm like,
I can't either, so that's why I knew that was
okay.
true.
Yeah, it's terrible. I'm like,
Fun stuff, fun stuff. I can't even. Yeah, I can't even.
our coach can do like this thing where he whistles like, "Ooh," and the whole gym like shuts up. I'm like, how do you do that? I need that.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've never been able to whistle. But okay. Here is my three things. Ariel is my favorite princess. I've been to Russia. And if I can live anywhere in the world, it would be Barcelona.
Russia.
No, I've been to Russia.
Ooh.
Yeah, we went
And
on
Barcelona's your lie.
No, I love Barcelona.
So Ariel's not because you're wearing her hair.
No. I figured that's kind of why I did that one. No, Jasmine is actually my favorite.
Oh, Jasmine is
which is why the other ones
awesome.
are like travel related. Yeah.
Ah.
So, yeah.
Oh, how fun.
Mark's hoping that we go to Japan.
You should because it's so fun. All right. So that about wraps it up. If you do want to get in touch with us, you can email us at fightin.fonties@gmail.com, and I'll spell that out for you. FIGHTIN.FONTIS@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at fightin.fonties.bjj, and you can actually give my kids a follow.
My daughter Layla is also on Instagram and Facebook under Cheer Jitsu Girl, so CHEER JITSUGIRL. Follow her cheer and jujitsu journey and whatever else she ends up doing. Oh, fun fact, she's actually going to start boxing next
Oh, how
month.
exciting!
She started sparring at our one of our old gyms.
Oh,
So
fun.
she's excited, especially
It's gonna
because
be
like
so
the
fun.
coach is a professor's wife, so she's a girl, and she was like, "Ooh, she's my
Ooh,
coach," and I
That's
was like,
cool.
"Yeah."
She's
So she's
awesome.
excited. Yeah.
That's so cool. All right. So thanks everyone for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.